I read 12 books in July, and I'm going to tell you what I thought, what I rated them, and whether or not I think you should read them, based on my opinion alone. First up, I read Love and Olives by Jenna Evans Welch. She has written like Love and Gelato, which I'm pretty sure is like a Netflix movie or series, and then also Love and Luck. They're very YA, which is why I'm only going to give this one 3 stars. I thought it was a cute story. It's about a girl named Liv who reconnects, Olive, her name is Olive, Liv. She reconnects with her estranged father over the hunt for the lost city of Atlantis. It's a really good story about forgiveness, acceptance, kind of moving on and letting go together, and also just kind of, yeah, the feeling of adventure and family, and a lot of good morals, a lot of good lessons. I thought it was very cute. It was just a little bit too YA for me. Now that I'm 27, I feel like maybe I'm aging out of a lot of these like middle school, high school stories. But that being said, it was still a really good story, and if you are maybe a little bit younger than me, I think that this is a good one to read. Next, I read Done and Dusted, and I'm going to give this one 3 stars as well. I highly doubt I'm going to be reading the rest of the Rebel Blue Ranch novels, just because I don't like interconnected stories, in the sense that, like, now that I've read about these 2 characters, I have to read about her brother hooking up with somebody else, and I don't know, that's just like a little bit weird to me. Maybe I'm alone in that, but the reason I'm only giving it 3 stars is I did like the relationship between our 2 main characters, but it is a brother's best friend situation, and I don't like that. It's really icky. Like, this guy is her brother's best friend, as the trope is, brother's best friend. But when her brother finds out that they're together, he acts so possessively gross, as if this isn't like an adult woman in her mid to late 20s who can fully consent and have a relationship that has nothing to do with her brother. Like, I don't know, that just gives me such an ick, and honestly like ruins the story for me a little bit. But if you remove that, I did think that the story between these 2 was really cute, and I do like the Western vibes. I just, yeah, I did not like brother's best friend. It's not for me. Then I read Reckless. By default, I think I have to give this a 1 star, though I would give it 0 if I could. All of these tabs are all grammar and spelling mistakes. And I even created a fun little drinking game to play if you feel like reading this. First, take a shot every time somebody presses a knife to somebody else's throat. It happens a lot. Take a shot every time Kai calls Peyton his mission, when he says my mission, because it's repetitive. Take a shot every time Kit mentions his ink-stained hands. Let it go, dude. Every time Kai says play along or just pretend, because he has no other words in his body. Or every time somebody surprisingly says, oh, you're bleeding, as if they weren't just in a knife fight. Okay? The overuse of the words murmurs and lazily, I'm sick of it. Use a thesaurus. Okay? There was no plot in this. And what little plot we did have, we recycled every 10 to 20 pages. First, Kai's chasing Peyton, then Peyton's chasing Kai, then there's a third party chasing both of them, and then they're chasing somebody else. And it was just so exhausting, not to mention the fact that in the first 200 pages, there's only 1 bed scenes. You gotta earn that crap. When I'm talking about like spelling and grammatical errors, I'm talking about there were so many instances in which either the opening or the closing quotation marks are not there. So at some point a character is having a thought that turns into a sentence because he's thinking, and then it ends in quotation marks, and so I'm left having to figure out where that sentence out loud started and ended, which is really annoying and more effort than I should have to put in as a reader. The incorrect use of the word taut, as in like something pulled tight, should be T-A-U-T. Instead it is taught, like he taught her something. Even so, for the fact that they have it in the same paragraph, now I have to find it, in the same paragraph where they use both instances of the word like within 2 sentences of each other. So first, the chain pulls taut, T-A-U-G-H-T, before I have a chance to catch my breath. 2 sentences later, it's a struggle to pull myself into the room with the chain tangled and taut, T-A-U-T, between us. I don't know how, especially that they're in the same paragraph, I don't know how that got through publication. That's really annoying because I honestly felt like I was being gaslit into thinking that the word T-A-U-G-H-T could be used both ways, but it can't. It can't. And at the end, this one really got me. Green and crisp like fresh dew on a blade of grass. Dew as in D-U-E, as in something is due, not D-E-W as in dew. Enough said. This felt incredibly rushed. We had no original ideas. Everything was recycled every 10 to 20 pages, and then the ending was just so predictable and boring, and I'm honestly, I don't like being mean, because if you like this book, honestly, like, don't listen to me and don't let me take that from you, but I didn't like this book, and I don't know how it is so popular. But I am in so deep that I will be reading the third one with very minimal hope that it can redeem itself. So that's a 1 star. Then I read Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is my first Emily Henry book that I've ever read, and I'm giving this one 3.5 because I didn't like the ending. I didn't like the ending of this one. I shouldn't say that. I think I'm okay with the ending. I just didn't like that there was like a miscommunication trope at the end, which is fine in some circumstances, but I didn't like that this one could have been so easily resolved with like 2 sentences. But they just refused to have that. So anyway, our main characters, I'm forgetting their names, Daphne and Miles, these two, they end up living together after her fiance leaves her for his girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend. So their partners get together, and then they're forced to live together because Daphne doesn't really have a living situation. I will say I do really like the focus on female friendships for Daphne and her growth throughout this story. I just didn't like the miscommunication trope at the end, but also Miles is a real cutie. So it has that going for them. I would recommend this book. Like, I think it's still a good, solid book. Maybe I haven't read enough Emily Henry, and this is her latest release. I will definitely be going back and reading her previous books because it's very good. Just because it wasn't necessarily for me, I think it was still really good. I didn't read these ones back to back, but they're a duology, so I'm going to share about them. One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. They each get 5 stars. They check off everything I need in a fantasy book. The world building is so rich and beautiful. This is the story about Elspeth, our main character, who lives in a kingdom where people catch a fever and then develop magic. And that magic is kind of outlawed. If you're known to have had the fever, you're most likely like killed or exiled or whatever, because it's just not allowed. There's like a heavy fog that envelops the kingdom, and it's just very dark and dreary and lots of things going on. But anyway, Elspeth got the fever when she was a child, and her uncle and aunts and her father hid her, and she later develops magic, in which, I don't know how much to explain without giving it away, in which she develops kind of like this demon that lives in her head and communicate with her. And I honestly love that. That's a vibe. I would love to have a little monster in my... No, that's not true. I would like to have somebody in my head to talk to other than myself, because it's just kind of empty. But I love the world building, and I love that you never really know if this demon monster is for her or against her. Is he for himself? Is he protective? Like, it's a very unique situation, and I love the world building in that. This one is only a duology, which I think I have mixed feelings about, because the story wraps up and it's like, we don't need more, because I fear if we had more, it might drag it out or etc. Like, everything was resolved and everything is beautifully wrapped up. However, I just didn't want to leave this world. Like, I thought it was so richly created, and I just kind of wanted to live in that world for a little while. Like, yeah, I don't know. I had such a good time with this series, and I would recommend it to anyone who's into fantasy or maybe a little bit gothic fantasy. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, huge fan of these ones. Then I read Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This one is so cute. This takes place in the same world as Just for the Summer, and I think one of the other books of hers, but I've only read Just for the Summer and now this one. This is about 2 doctors who are both like coming out of the worst kind of relationships. Our female character, her husband cheats on her, and his girlfriend leaves him for his brother. So they're both coming out of relationships that ended horribly, and they meet and develop a friendship that turns into a relationship and kind of blossoms from there. I'm giving this one 4.5 because this one I can say for a fact I did not like the ending. It wasn't for me. It can, like, I'm sure I know there must be people who absolutely loved it, but it was not for me. I didn't love the ending. And again, I'm not going to spoil it, but I just didn't like the ending. I did really love that our main male character suffers with anxiety. And so this is dual perspective. And when we get to his chapters, his anxiety is portrayed so well on the page. Like, I felt like I was reading my own thoughts. So I thought that was very beautifully well done. And as always with Abby Jimenez books, like, I was giggling and kicking my feet. It was so, so cute. So 4.5 just because I didn't love the ending. Then I read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is about our two main characters who are separated by like a 7-year time paradox that only exists within this apartment. I have become obsessed with Ashley Poston. Her books are so beautifully written. I love that they're not crazy long, but like you get a full-fledged, fully developed story, fully developed characters. I couldn't read this fast enough because I needed to figure out what happened. I needed to figure out how this was going to end. Like, the magical realism in her books is always just so well done. So this one is getting 5 stars. Big fan of this one. Then I read Raiders of the Lost Heart. This one is getting like 3 stars. Just because like, I don't know. I find rating books is difficult because I didn't love it, but it wasn't a bad book. This is about 2 archaeologists who are kind of enemies. They went to college together, and then he ended up stealing a job out from under her, and so they've kind of hated each other ever since. But now he's on a prestigious dig that she happens to like be an expert in, and so he needs her help, and he calls her up, and they're like kind of forced to work together. I mean, the tagline is like your tent or mine, so they're close proximity, working together after hating each other for years. I thought it was a solid story. Like, there's romance, there's spice, there's adventure. Overall, like a solid story. I feel it's one of those books that as I was reading, I was like, I feel like this is a movie I've seen, or maybe it's just, I don't want to say predictable, but it's easy enough to follow that I can like picture this so vividly in my head. It was a fun time. Regardless, it wasn't the best time, but it was a fun time. Cute story. Then I read Ashley Poston's A Novel Love Story, which again, I'm giving 5 stars. I couldn't stop tabbing this. This was so cute. Again, with the magical realism, our female main character ends up trapped in the fictional town of her favorite author. What a premise. Like, who doesn't dream of that? Like, that's amazing. This was so relatable, like the character and the pop culture references. I love it. I also love that all of Ashley Poston's books have to do with like some sort of like book theme. Like in The Dead Romantics, which I read a couple months ago, our main characters were a ghostwriter and a book publisher. In The 7-Year Slip, again, our main character is a book publisher. In this one, she's just like book obsessed, has a book club, like all of that. I just love the overarching theme of books. And then of course she gets stuck in the fictional town's book world. It was so cute. I'm still giving it 5 stars, even though I didn't like the reveal at the end. But that being said, I love that Ashley Poston makes decisions and she sticks to them. But I didn't hate it enough to like knock down any points. I still thought it was really good. And so 5 stars, I think, for all of Ashley Poston's books that I've read so far. They're all just really good. Then I read The Cartographers by Peng Shepherd, and I have to just read the back because every time I try to explain it, it doesn't make any sense. Nell Young's greatest passion is cartography, which is the study of maps. Her father is a legend in the field and Nell's personal hero, but she hasn't spoken to him since he destroyed her reputation after an argument about an old, cheap gas station highway map. When her father is found dead in his office in the New York Public Library with the very same map hidden in his desk, Nell can't resist investigating. She soon discovers that this seemingly worthless map is exceedingly rare and valuable, but someone has been hunting down and destroying every last copy in existence, along with anyone that gets in the way. So this was like an adventure, thriller, mystery kind of thing. I had such a good time. I'm giving it 4.5 stars because I did feel like the last 100 pages were a little bit convoluted. Like, once we kind of found out the reveal, it did feel over-explained after that. So I didn't love that, but this was such a wild ride, such an adventure. I really can't say more without giving it away, but I did really enjoy this book. If you like any sort of adventure, kind of mystery, lost treasure type situation, I think that this is for you. It was really well written. And then to close out the month, I read Hello Stranger by Catherine Center, which again gets 3 stars. I had a lot of 3 stars reads this month. It was like They're good, but they're not my favorite. This is about a woman who is a portrait artist, except she develops face blindness. It was a little predictable, it was a little cheesy, and again, the ending was so over-explained. It was like, okay, your audience isn't that dumb. We got it. Once it was explained the first time, we didn't need to explain it again. But I do love the kind of journey of self-discovery that our main character goes along, of proving herself and finding her worth outside of necessarily like what she thought she was supposed to do with her life. I did think it was a good story in that sense. But yeah, it was a little bit over-explained, and it was just a little bit predictable, and that's why it's getting 3 stars. It was also like just not my favorite book. So yeah, overall, it was a good reading month. Other than Reckless, there were no books that I hated. There were books that I loved, and then there were books that were pretty good. That is my August reading wrap-up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.